The original Haute42 Ultra came out earlier this year, and combined with the shadow hunting switches, it remains one of my favourite leverless controllers ever. And now we have the follow-up. This is the Ultra Gen 2. Most of the changes are straight upgrades, but you still need to apply preference when deciding between these because some changes might not be to your liking. Haute42 is sponsoring today's video, and I know you're thinking now that Vay's rich and famous, honesty goes out the window. Well, I'm not rich and famous yet. When I start rocking a Rolex and driving a Ferrari, that's when you should be worried about me selling out. I haven't even got my driving license yet, so we're okay for now. They have assured me I can say whatever I want, as I have done over these past couple of years covering their products, and they won't get to see this video before I post it. Now, I've opted for the blue version to give you an idea of what it looks like, but it also comes in full black, which I think looks better, but this is another example of me making choices to put you lot first. If you're new here or new to leverless controllers in general, you're looking at what is essentially a keyboard with less keys, but these keys are bigger and arguably more fun to use with arcade games compared to a standard keyboard. If you don't agree with that sentiment, it's fine. Use whatever tool feels best and whatever helps you to win. No one's forcing you. We've got 4 direction buttons, 8 action buttons, and an additional 4 peripheral buttons. You don't have to use this setup strictly because the Ultra Gen 2 runs on a fantastic GP24 software, so you can assign any button anywhere. It's compatible with PC, Mac, Switch 1 and 2, and PS4. PS5 requires an authentication dongle like the Booter 5, and the Series X requires the appropriate Brook converter. So why would you choose this controller in particular? For me, the Ultra series comes down to 3 things. The first is the aluminium build. If you don't want an acrylic stack Haute42, you go for a metal option like this. The finish isn't like most aluminium built controllers. Those are usually smooth and buttery, but it's quite common to hear people call them fingerprint magnets. The Gen 2 has a very coarse finish, and I believe this is their direct response to hand juice and acid damage. How well it actually works in that regard will take some time to find out, but going from my early play sessions, it seems to be doing pretty well. With this chassis, I feel like Haute42 are experimenting. We've seen the aluminium bodywork go from dead simple to slightly curvier, and with the Gen 2, they've made their most sophisticated casing yet. You might not like what they've done, but they've certainly done something. We now have some angles and dips on the forehead, we've got a gentle chamfer on all 4 sides, and the slope is a lot more gradual and a lot less angular. Whilst we're on the topic of bodywork, let's quickly talk about the printing. It has button labeling, you guys know I have a thing for that. I don't mind the branding up here because it's small and has its own little parking space up there. But I think these lines down here will be divisive. To me, it reminds me of the F1 logo, and maybe that's intentional because it does invoke a feeling of speed, and if that's what they were going for, well, they've nailed it. I've seen a comment on one of my posts saying it looks cheap, so yeah, there will be mixed opinions on this. I think this is another example of Haute42 practicing for something else. What I'm hoping is that they've started doing these decals as a test run for something proper in the future. I think it would be nice if they could get a real license and put some fighting game characters on here, for example. It doesn't have to be too complicated. I have a stick-on decal here on my X series. I got this from Wondos Media, and you can find the link below. And I think something with a simple design like this would look really cool. The second key thing with the Ultra series is the spacing. The buttons are quite close together, and coupled with the 23mm buttons, I feel like I don't have to stretch far to reach any button I want. The distance between the jump and the A button in particular is ideal for my hands, and to me it feels like a small controller on a big body. The third key thing about this series is the placement of the RS button. A lot of controllers have this higher and closer to the A and B buttons. Having the RS up there is inconvenient for me, and I would usually just ignore the button altogether. On the Ultra series, to hit this button, all I need to do is slide my thumb along like this. And it would be the same if I was a left thumb jumper. Just a quick slide across will hit this keybind. It's a layout that's equally friendly for both left and right thumb jumpers. Our woke friends would love this. So with those main factors laid out, you should already know if this controller sounds like the one for you. Now I want to point out some obvious improvements over the Gen 1. First up, we have a larger screen. A screen on a leverless controller isn't a make or break feature, but it's definitely useful. Now you can see your controller modes and do your button checks clearly, even if you have old man eyes like myself. Of course, you might opt to put an image here instead, possibly your current waifu or some cryptic messaging to get people who like you to subconsciously submit to your will. So yeah, like and subscribe. The Gen 2 has Haute42's new RGB rings. I think this implementation of RGB is awesome because it's effective and non-intrusive. You literally can't feel it, and you can choose whatever Choc V2 switches you want. It won't affect the potency of these lights. Okay, we've got one more improvement, and that is of course the cable lock. So many people get worried about their USB going bad in case of a nudge or whatever. Here you go. Cable lock, and it's a pretty good one. It's not the best. I think the Novablade Pro currently has the best one because it feels intuitive to slide it across, but this one isn't bad at all. You have to push the switch all the way down and it will pop. Just brace yourself for the next wave of people who are going to complain about breaking their lock doors. And one last thing, I don't know where to fit this, but I just have to mention that the jump button and Cosmox logo align perfectly. It sits well enough in the middle to look like it's slap bang in the center. This is an OCD bro's dream. I'm not trying to get controller designers to sacrifice everything just to have the jump button in the middle. It's definitely not necessary, but let's be honest, it is satisfying. The button caps are 23.5mm and the jump cap is 25.8mm. It's easy to find replacements for these, especially if you just go for the Haute42 ones. In the box you get a cap and switch puller. Gently nudge this side in until you can slip it under the cap and pull upwards to reveal the switch. The options for these low profile switches are growing, and as long as you get a Choc V2 switch, you'll be fine to swap them out. You can't op mod this in the traditional sense, but you can stick vinyls on top or go for a decal like I did with my X series. For this comparison, I have the Ultra Gen 1. So we've got a coarse finish compared to a smooth finish, larger screen, RGB rings, the smoother curve on the chin, chamfering on the 2, and the 2 uses their newer style function buttons. I don't think there was anything wrong with these on the Gen 1. In fact, I think they're easier to press on a Gen 1, and the functions on the 2 are inconsistent with height. My start button and minus button seem slightly lower than the rest, which is a bit annoying. It also feels like you gotta push harder to get them going as well, but they do sit in the pocket better, so they're not slightly wobbly like the ones here. A big change between them is this peripheral button. It's now over here at the pinky, so if you like pinky buttons, that's fantastic. You have an Alu Haute42 with a pinky button. The spacing is also slightly wider on the Gen 2. It's not a massive difference, but I do have to mention that it's not a 1-for-1. The Ultra is absolute perfection for me when it comes to spacing and button size, and jumping over to the 2, I didn't feel much difference, so even though there is a slight change, it's not a big enough factor to sway you from one or the other. Finally, the Ultra 1 doesn't have a cable lock. You guys can decide for yourself if that's important to you. Personally, I think it's a great addition to modernize the controller to 2025 specifications, but it's certainly not a problem for me that the Ultra 1 doesn't have it. Now, there's a difference you can't see, and I think it's quite important. The one comes with crystal switches. These are like vanilla. They're fine. They feel like red switches if you know what those are like. Kind of loose, fast and light. I changed these to shadow hunting switches, and some might say shadows are sluggish, but they feel and sound great to me, and they also sit lower, so they have to travel less to hit the bottom. This actually helps me with my timing. My natural timing just clicks with the travel distance when pressing these, and I like them a lot. The Gen 2 comes with these already installed, so if you were considering getting the shadow hunting switches anyway, this improves the value proposition. But hold on. This is important. Even with the same switches on both controllers, they still sound and feel a bit different. I think the plastic housing around the button caps on a Gen 2 creates a louder, higher frequency press, and it could just be placebo, but it feels like it comes back up quicker too. I prefer the sound of the Ultra 1, but the faster return on the Ultra 2. These differences are very subtle and to some, even imperceptible. But if you're coming from the Ultra 1 to the 2, expect a very slight difference in that regard. So what do you do if you have the Ultra 1? If you haven't had any issues with it and you still enjoy it, you're good. I think you can ignore the 2. What if you don't have either and you're ready for an aluminium Haute42 controller? Pick up the Gen 2. Whether it's better is debatable, but it certainly offers more. Either one will cost you about the same, roughly £110 or the equivalent in dollars. They should be discounted right now on AliExpress, and you can also try my coupon codes below, and that will help the channel massively. Many thanks for the support. So the M Ultra Gen 2. If you already have the Gen 1, it has some changes that you may or may not like, but we can't deny it has plenty of features and it's certainly the most well-equipped aluminium controller that Haute42 has released. As usual, what you can get for the price is brilliant. It's not going to be the most premium experience available, but then you're also not paying a premium fee. If you want a good aluminium controller that will serve you well, this should definitely be on your shortlist. Thanks for joining me for today's video. Whether you're looking for your first levelist or you're a seasoned collector, I appreciate you spending your time with me. If you like gaming and gaming tech in general, do consider subscribing so I can bring more of these videos to you. And I'll see you in the next one.